Toyota has murdered more legendary cars than any other manufacturer on the planet. The Supra, the MR2, the Celica, the original Land Cruiser. They build the hero. They kill the hero. Then they resurrect it 20 years later like nothing happened and watch the internet absolutely lose it. Here's the paradox nobody wants to sit with. Toyota is simultaneously the most aggressively boring car company on earth and the builder of some of the rarest machines in automotive history. Both things are completely true at the same time. And that tension is exactly what this video is about. Wait until we get to level 7. Level 1. Corolla, the appliance. The Corolla is the best-selling car in human history. Over 50 million sold. If life had a skip tutorial button, you would literally just spawn in a Corolla. Base LE, 169 horsepower, 0 to 60 in about 8 seconds. $23,000. The hybrid does 50 miles per gallon and runs on fiscal responsibility and ambient anxiety. You do not buy a Corolla because you want to. You buy it because it is genuinely the most adult decision you have ever made. And somehow that feels worse than it should. The buyer archetype is the guy who has every streaming subscription and uses exactly none of them. The guy who sets his alarm for 6:47, not 6:45, not 6:50, 6:47. He owns this Corolla for 11 years, puts 280,000 miles on the clock, sells it to his nephew for $4,000 cash, and then immediately buys another one. The Corolla is not really a car. It is emotional support underwear with 4 wheels and a perfectly adequate infotainment system. Level 2. Camry RAV4, the default. This is where adulthood arrives whether you invited it or not. Camry from 28,000, RAV4 from 30. Hybrid Camry at 50 miles per gallon, drinking fuel like it is actively frightened of it. Here is the thing about Toyota resale value that sounds made up until you actually look it up. A 2018 Camry with 100,000 miles still sells for $18,000. A 2018 BMW 3 Series with the same mileage is $11,000 and probably needs a new transmission. That gap is not a coincidence. People buying Camrys are not buying a car, they are buying a savings account that commutes. Camry owner never misses a bill payment. Has a Google Calendar reminder for literally everything. Has not done anything spontaneous since 2014. Still calls it the new car in year 9. The Camry is what you buy when you have fully accepted who you are as a person, and honestly, that kind of peace costs less than you think. Level 3. Tacoma Hilux, the truck cult. The Hilux and the Tacoma are basically the same truck wearing different name tags depending on which side of an ocean you are standing on. And the Hilux is genuinely the most indestructible machine ever bolted together by human hands. A television production crew set one on fire, drove it into the ocean, put it on top of a 23-story building, demolished the building, and the truck started on the first try every single time. That is not a metaphor. That actually happened. Every militia on Earth drives the same Hilux because it is the only vehicle that refuses to break in conditions where everything else already quit. In America, you get the Tacoma from $32,000. A 2014 with 150,000 miles still sells for $20,000. You find one on Marketplace, and the seller writes, "No lowballs, I know what I have." Relax, Brent. Here's the thing nobody talks about though. The 2024 Tacoma is the first generation in 20 years that is depreciating like a normal truck. New turbo engine, more complexity, owners already posting TRD off-roads with 13,000 miles selling well below sticker. If you want the unkillable variant, you want 2023 or older, full stop. Tacoma owner names the truck, has a state sticker for every state they have driven through. Will explain to you completely unprompted why their truck is better than yours. Just nod. Level 4. Land Cruiser 4Runner, the indestructible. If the Hilux runs in war zones, the Land Cruiser runs in countries that do not have functioning governments. The UN drives Land Cruisers. Every NGO on Earth drives Land Cruisers. Every African dictator owns 3. The 70 series has been in continuous production since 1984. 40 years, same basic body, still rolling off the line new today in markets where it is the only thing that survives the road. Americans are paying $80,000 over sticker to import them. The new Land Cruiser sold in the US is the smaller 250 series, which some reviewers publicly called a disappointment. The full-size 300 series got repackaged as the Lexus LX. So grown men are out here buying Lexuses, peeling the badges, and bolting on Japanese front clips like it is completely normal behavior. It is not. The 4Runner is the domestic version from $42,000. Body on frame, solid rear axle, basically a tank with cup holders. Read any 4Runner comment section, and someone is casually mentioning 400,000 miles on the original engine. They are not lying. 4Runner owner has a full beard, a roof tent, knows 3 facts about recovery boards, and is about to tell you all of them. Drives to Home Depot like he is crossing the Sahara. Genuine respect. Level 5, GR86. GR Corolla. GR Yaris. The comeback. For roughly 20 years, Toyota simply refused to make anything fun. Then, in 2017, the company's own president, grandson of the founder, walked into a press conference and said the words "no more boring cars." He meant it. GR86, $30,000, 228 horsepower, naturally aspirated, manual transmission still available. Finding a new car with a manual in 2026 is basically a religious experience. GR Corolla, 41,300 horsepower turbocharged 3-cylinder all-wheel drive. A 4-door rally car you can take to the grocery store. That should not exist. GR Yaris, 268 horsepower hatchback the size of a shopping cart, not sold in America. Toyota looked at the American market and said no. Now here is the hot take. GR86 owners genuinely hate. The Subaru BRZ is the same exact car. Same chassis, same engine, same output. Subaru helped engineer it. The only real difference is the badge and the dealership experience. The BRZ is usually cheaper, easier to insure, and Subaru techs actually understand the Boxer engine. Toyota dealers generally do not. If you are buying purely for the driving, the BRZ is the mathematically cleaner decision. Toyota fans will come for me in the comments. Nothing they say will be factually wrong. They will still buy the GR86 anyway. Brand loyalty is not math. And that, bro, has a price. Level 6, Supra. The legend, the MK4 Supra arrived in 1993. Twin-turbo 2JZ inline. 6. 320 horsepower from the factory. The 2JZ is one of the strongest production engines ever built. People have extracted 1,000 horsepower from stock internals. Stock internals? That is not how engines are supposed to work. That is the 2JZ. Then a certain Orange 1 appeared in a 2001 action film, and Supra prices simply left the atmosphere. A clean MK4 Turbo today starts at $150,000. Same car your uncle bought for 40 grand in 2005 and immediately put a ridiculous wing on. The current MK5 was developed with BMW, shares an engine platform with the Z4, and Toyota fans had a collective breakdown online for about 6 solid months. The argument was, it is not a real Supra. The engine is genuinely excellent. The car is legitimately fast. The 2JZ era is over, and that is not a BMW problem. That is an emissions problem. Drive the car. MK5 Supra owner has seen a certain racing franchise film series an unreasonable number of times. Can correctly pronounce the Japanese name of the drift course. Owns a Tokyo drift hat without irony. Salt of the earth. Leave him alone. Level 7. The 2000 GT Century GR010. The cars you don't know exist. This is where things get strange. 3 cars. The 2000 GT was built from 1967 to 1970. They made 351 total, forever. Japan's first proper supercar, inline 6, magnesium wheels, a body that looked like a Jaguar E-Type sketched by a Japanese architect. James Bond drove one in a film and they had to remove the roof because the actor playing him was physically too tall to fit inside the production car. A Carroll Shelby prepped example sold at auction in 2022 for $2.5 million. $2.5 million for a Toyota. The Century is Japan's answer to a Rolls-Royce. Hand-built V12 for most of its production life. The rear seats are upholstered in wool, not leather, because leather produces a sliding sound considered undignified. The engine runs so quietly that Japan's emperor reportedly read a newspaper in the back seat, without raising his voice. The emperor and the organized crime leadership of Japan ride in the same car for entirely different reasons. Most Americans have never seen one in person. The GR010 is Toyota's Le Mans hypercar. Toyota chased that race for 33 years. In 2016, the car broke down on the final lap, with the trophy essentially already in hand. Then they came back, kept building, and won 5 consecutive times from 2018 through 2022. The company that builds your commuter sedan has more recent Le Mans victories than Lamborghini, McLaren, or Mercedes have ever accumulated. Process that. Here is how to actually navigate the lineup. Want something that outlives you? Get the Land Cruiser or the 4Runner. Want maximum resale protection? Find a pre-2024 Tacoma. Want something that is genuinely fun to drive? The GR86 or GR Corolla. Want the lore? The MK4 Supra. Want lore on a realistic budget? The MK5. Want to never think about your car again? The Camry. Want a museum piece? The 200 GT, but you will need considerably wealthier friends first. Toyota started as a loom company, became the most reliable car manufacturer on Earth, killed every interesting car it ever built, made boring ones for 2 decades, used the boring money to fund a supercar that was too small for its most famous driver, a V12 sedan with wool seats for an emperor, and a Le Mans program that kept losing and then refused to stop until it won. Do not try to make it make sense. That is Toyota. The best car they ever built is probably the one you have never heard of and can never afford. The second best is probably already in your neighbor's driveway, with 210,000 miles and 0 mechanical complaints.